Social Science. CBSE Class 7. Social and Political Life 2. Chapter 1. Chapter Name, On Equality. Heading: Equality in Indian Democracy. As per textbook. Equality in Indian democracy. The Indian Constitution recognizes every person as equal. This means that every individual in the country, including male and female persons from all castes, religions, tribes, educational and economic backgrounds, are recognized as equal. This is not to say that inequality ceases to exist. It doesn't. But at least, in democratic India, the principle of the equality of all persons is recognized. While earlier no law existed to protect people from discrimination and ill-treatment, now there are several that work to see that people are treated with dignity and as equals. This recognition of equality includes some of the following provisions in the Constitution. First, that every person is equal before the law. What this means is that every person, from the president of the country to Kanta, a domestic worker, has to obey the same laws. Second, no person can be discriminated against on the basis of their religion, race, caste, place of birth, or whether they are female or male. Third, every person has access to all public places including playgrounds, hotels, shops and markets. All persons can use publicly available wells, roads and bathing ghats. Fourth, untouchability has been abolished. The two ways in which the government has tried to implement the equality that is guaranteed in the Constitution is first through laws and second through government programs or schemes to help disadvantaged communities. There are several laws in India that protect every person's right to be treated equally. In addition to laws, the government has also set up several schemes to improve the lives of communities and individuals who have been treated unequally for several centuries. These schemes are to ensure greater opportunity for people who have not had this in the past. One of the steps taken by the government includes the midday meal scheme. This refers to the program introduced in all government elementary schools to provide children with cooked lunch. Tamil Nadu was the first state in India to introduce this scheme, and in 2001, the Supreme Court asked all state governments to begin this program in their schools within 6 months. This program has had many positive effects. These include the fact that more poor children have begun enrolling and regularly attending school. Teachers reported that earlier children would often go home for lunch and then not return to school, but now with the midday meal being provided in school, their attendance has improved. Their mothers, who earlier had to interrupt their work to feed their children at home during the day, now no longer need to do so. This program has also helped reduce caste prejudices because children of all castes in the school eat this meal together. And in quite a few places, Dalit women have been employed to cook the meal. The midday meal program also helps reduce the hunger of poor students who often come to school and cannot concentrate because their stomachs are empty. While government programs play an important role in increasing equality of opportunity, there is much that still needs to be done. While the midday meal program has helped increase the enrollment and attendance of poor children in school, there continues to be big differences in our country between schools that the rich attend and those that the poor attend. Even today there are several schools in the country in which Dalit children are discriminated against and treated unequally. These children are forced into unequal situations in which their dignity is not respected. This is because people refuse to think of them as equal even though the law requires it. One of the main reasons for this is that attitudes change very slowly. Even though persons are aware that discrimination is against the law, they continue to treat people unequally on the basis of their caste, religion, disability, economic status, and because they are women. It is only when people begin to believe that no one is inferior, and that every person deserves to be treated with dignity, that present attitudes can change. Establishing equality in a democratic society is a continuous struggle and one in which individuals as well as various communities in India contribute to, and you will read more about this in this book. That means, in a democratic country, like India, all adults irrespective of what religion they belong to, how much education they have had, what caste they are, or whether they are rich or poor are allowed to vote. This is called universal adult franchise and is an essential aspect of all democracies. The idea of universal adult franchise is based on the idea of equality. Apart from being poor, people in India experience inequality which is based on the caste system. When persons are treated unequally, their dignity is violated. Dignity is the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake and to be treated ethically. The Indian Constitution recognizes every person as equal. This means that every individual in the country, including male and female persons from all castes, religions, tribes, educational and economic backgrounds are recognized as equal. The recognition of equality includes the following provisions in the Constitution. 1. Every person is equal before the law. 2. No person can be discriminated against on the basis of their religion, race, caste, place of birth or whether they are female or male. 3. Every person has access to all public places. 4. Untouchability has been abolished. The two ways in which the government has tried to implement the equality that is guaranteed in the Constitution is: first, through laws. Second, through government programs or schemes. One of the steps taken by the government includes the midday meal scheme. Heading: Issues of equality in other democracies. As per textbook. You are probably wondering whether India is the only democratic country in which there is inequality and where the struggle for equality continues to exist. The truth is that in many democratic countries around the world, the issue of equality continues to be the key issue around which communities struggle. So, for example, in the United States of America, the African Americans whose ancestors were the slaves who were brought over from Africa, continue to describe their lives today as largely unequal. This, despite the fact that there was a movement in the late 1950s to push for equal rights for African Americans. Prior to this, African Americans were treated extremely unequally in the United States and denied equality through law. For example, when traveling by bus, they either had to sit at the back of the bus or get up from their seat whenever a white person wished to sit. Rosa Parks, 1913205, was an African American woman. Tired from a long day at work, she refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white man on 1 December 1955. Her refusal that day started a huge agitation against the unequal ways in which African Americans were treated and which came to be known as the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, religion or national origin. It also stated that all schools would be open to African American children and that they would no longer have to attend separate schools specially set up for them. However, despite this, a majority of African Americans continue to be among the poorest in the country. Most African American children can only afford to attend government schools that have fewer facilities and poorly qualified teachers as compared to white students who either go to private schools or live in areas where the government schools are as highly rated as private schools. That means, in many democratic countries around the world, the issue of equality continues to be the key issue around which communities struggle. Heading: Challenge of Democracy. As per textbook, no country can be described as being completely democratic. There are always communities and individuals trying to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on existing as well as new issues. Central to this is the struggle for the recognition of all persons as equal and for their dignity to be maintained. In this book you will read about how this issue of equality affects various aspects of our daily lives in democratic India. As you read these chapters, think about whether the equality of all persons and their being able to maintain their dignity is upheld. Heading: Excerpt from Article 15 of the Indian Constitution. Prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. 1. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them. 2. No citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them, be subject to any disability, liability, restriction or condition with regard to a. Access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment, or b. The use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads and places of public resort maintained wholly or partly out of state funds or dedicated to the use of the general public.